Hi, everybody, and welcome to Overcoming the Obstacles. Today we have Maureen Ruhl joining us, and she's going to be telling us all about herself and what she's doing. But before we get started, I just want to let you know that this would be a great time to subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. And regardless, make sure you give us a like on the video. And that is because when you subscribe and when you like the video, that tells YouTube that you like this content, and that helps me out on the algorithms because they're more likely to share it with other people. So without further ado, here's Maureen. Maureen, if you don't mind telling us about yourself and the exciting work that you're doing.
Okay, thank you very much, Gail. My name's Maureen Ruhl. I'm a 63-year-old grandmother. I have two sons with my husband, of course. We're married 43 years, so high school sweethearts. I am a victim of child sexual abuse, and I was always frustrated from a very young age when the abuse happened to me. I was very young, and I would try to explain to people that this was going on. But how does a child of 3 and 4 years old articulate to an adult, something bad is happening?
Right.
And I was also tired of people saying, oh, that's just not a subject that I want to talk about, or I don't feel comfortable, or let's not talk about it, it'll go away.
Yeah, that shroud of silence.
And that shroud of silence, thousands, if millions of children have become sexually abused, and their lives have been violated because we're too afraid as adults to take a stand with a child and listen. It doesn't take much, but just a listening ear and a loving heart for a child to tell you their story. And it's not going to be an eloquent story. It's going to be an uncomfortable story, an uncomfortable ride. But I was so tired of hearing people say that I wrote a book. So that opens the door to that dialogue, not invasively, not with harm to the adult or the child, but it opens the door, and it's more like a workbook that they work through and color pages and address things that have happened to them, but in a very mild, loving, and gentle way. I know that
is wonderful.
I know that it's not a topic that we want to talk about. I know it's not a topic people want to hear about. I would rather talk about spring daisies. Who wouldn't?
Right, absolutely.
But by not talking about it, we're losing children, and that is unacceptable. We cannot keep losing children. I'm not going to go into the depth of the deprivation that happened to me as a child, only to say that it started at age 3.
Very young.
Too young.
Well, any age is too young.
Any age. It's
right.
It's this improper touching, feeling, manipulating, pulling hair, withholding food, whatever it is. Or in some cases, a child is inflicted of everything that I just mentioned. Mm-hmm. It is not fine for us to be in the year 2021 in our little comfort zone. And it's invasive. It's an invasive declaration on children. I mean, what could be more violent than to abuse a child and dispose of them like a Dixie cup, dispose of their feelings like a Dixie cup, move on.
Well, I will say that nearly 700,000 children are abused each year just in the United States alone. Now, that's of 2018, and that came from the National Statistics on Child Abuse, the National Children's Alliance. So nearly 700,000. That's mind-boggling.
And how many people live in the United States of America? Aren't there like, what was it that?
Let me see if I can get that stat for you.
I mean, it's just when you put it in perspective of you're just talking about America, and then if we're just talking about America, when you see how many of us there really are, the stats is even more appalling, I feel.
Over 330 million.
Okay, and out of that, 700,000.
Yeah.
That's what are we doing?
Now that's each year. I mean, and that doesn't count the child victims who have grown up to be adults. I don't have that number. But it's mind-boggling.
It is. And my book is for a child as it would be for a person who is with therapy, chooses to go the route of therapy, which I'm an advocate of therapy. Therapy has helped me, and I'm not afraid to share that with anyone. I wouldn't be where I am today without the good Lord Jesus Christ and with my therapist. And they don't, and that's just my truth. And I think that I had a 98-year-old late woman tell me that I know that I'm going to meet the Lord soon. There's something that happened to me as a child. I want to rectify it. I went home from the one-room schoolhouse one day and told my mom. She said, we don't talk about those things. Nice girls don't talk about those things. And she said, I had this on my heart and I want to deal with it before I meet my maker. And she said, and your book allowed me to do that.
Nice.
What an honor, what an honor. I've had police use it. I've had situations where therapists have used it. I've got nothing back but good, positive evaluations. So in that case, I know it can make a difference if we use it, but we can't.
So what is the name of your book?
Frozen Tears.
Awesome.
And it's an ice cream cone, and that sort of protective lining on such a delicate and fragile thing as ice cream. And the frozen tears is, as a child, we shed tears of sadness and we shed tears of joy, but adults only ever want to see the tears we shed of joy.
Right.
When a child cries, they're like, oh, I can't deal with this today, because they keep getting confused that their life is much more important than a child's life. My girlfriend. Do you
think that part of their hesitation is because they just don't know how to handle it? They don't know what to say or do?
Well, surely. I didn't get this in class. Did you? Did we ever have the opportunity to study this? No. It's one of those other life things that we pick up by the seat of our pants. But we must address it. And we must take the time. My girlfriend and I used to talk. And she said to me one day, whenever your kids have something to say, they come up and they interrupt us when we're talking. And that really bothers me. I said, I'm sorry, but my children only have that on their mind, what they're going to tell me for a few moments. They're not going to remember it later at a more pristine time to remember it. So I stop my adult conversation and I will listen to my child, because at that moment in that space of time, they have something important to share with mom, and I'm going to be that mom that listens. So then after saying that, she goes, well, I never looked at it that way. I always was thinking that you were very rude by letting your children interrupt our conversation. She said, I never saw it from a child's point of view. So I never lost that friend. I still have that friend 20 years, and counting. But I learned something from her too, that it's easy to discount that little 3 or 4 foot high, interruption. It's easy to sit there and say, look, I'm having a cup of coffee with my girlfriend. We're chit-chatting about important things. And, what do you want now? And I realized I'm glad was not that kind of a mother. I can never be the great mother my mother was to me, but I'd like to think that I come part way.
Well, I think too, there's certainly a time when you have to have a conversation that your child can't interrupt, but they sense this. I know, like as a kid growing up, I always knew if my mom was having a deep conversation that I just couldn't interrupt, versus if she was having a conversation where I could walk in and say, "Hey, mom, have you seen my biology book?" Or
Right.
stuff like that. You just even small kids know.
They
But
do.
I like how you made time for yours in the conversation, because that also tells them they're valuable and they can come with you to you at any time. It makes yourself open.
I was the youngest of four children, and I was 13 years to 9 years younger than my three siblings. They were, and that, so I was like the only child, the baby, but everybody was adults. I didn't have anyone my age to really have dialogue with.
Sure.
And I thought, wow, and I didn't get the attention when I needed it. So I guess I overcompensated, and I had two sons who I just felt that if they had it on their heart and mind to say something, then I was going to open my heart and mind to take the time to listen. Now, you're right. It wasn't to the point of being rude or obnoxious. They never were. I was very fortunate. But I wouldn't make them jump up and down to be heard. I just wasn't going to be that kind of mom.
And in doing so, you made yourself very approachable. I did the same. I did the same thing. And so what happened with me, whenever my kids, unless they knew it was a very serious conversation, but my kids could always come to me, and the end result with them, at least, and they're girls, so it may be different, but when they got in high school, all of their friends came to me. It's like they started, and then it was like, yeah, you can talk to my mom. And so I knew every problem that all of their friends had.
Right.
And it was like, you should talk to mom. And I bet you had some of that too.
I did. I had all the boys. Now, I thought it was not so much me that they came to see as my refrigerator, because, after school, the kids get off the bus and boys can come bounding into my kitchen and open their refrigerator. And I'm telling you, you never see food disappear so fast as teenage boys wiping out a refrigerator in minutes. And, but as it turns out, many of those boys did approach me about certain situations, and my heart broke. And then I did become an advocate for, at that time, this is how long ago I've been an advocate. They used to call it rape crisis. And we don't use that language at all anymore.
Right.
But that's what the language was at that time, what the title was. And I remember being called to the hospital by the police and the nurse, and they said, we have a young lady here who's just been, had just been abused, and she's just not, she was very hyper, very upset. They couldn't calm her down. So I said, well, I'll come see what I can do. I walk in, she goes, you had this happen to you. And I thought, wow, I hope I don't have it on my forehead. I said, yes, I have. Now, I said, may I hold your hand? And she said, yes. And you're going to sit right here until this whole thing's over with. But she
was taking control of the situation. Good for her.
Yes, she did. And I was honored to have her, to hold her hand and to help her through her journey. That there again, such an invasive, invasive post abuse, then you go into, and you just feel like you're being opened up again, surgically opened up without any anesthesia.
That is a really good analogy there. I mean, of course, we're talking about emotions, but I love that analogy because it fits so well, because the emotions are so raw and the feelings are so intense, and you have that, just the emotional pain. I love that.
And
I also hate it.
And
we had to come up with that.
I hate that I had to write the book. I wish that the book wasn't necessary. I wish that in 2021, as we're all considered more technologically and educationally advanced, that we not hurt children, but
Right.
we can't stop ourselves, or some people
Yeah.
just
These
can't
abusers
stop.
just aren't stopping.
It's not stopping. And I want an end to child abuse. And if my book
Absolutely.
can start the conversation that will lead to legitimate and considerate and compassionate care to heal that child, that woman, that man, that grandmother, that grandfather, whoever they may be, because we seem to forget that once done to a child stays with that child till, like I said, that 98-year-old lady.
Yeah.
She was still dealing with something as a child that happened with her.
And it can once revelations come out, I mean, it can and does tear apart families, and that is not the fault of the child, or the children are the victim, and they can't. It's not their fault. Anything that happens after they report the abuse, or even before. I know that there's. I'm trying to put this delicately. I know sometimes with kids, they tend to internalize. And I have talked to more than one victim of abuse who said afterwards that had they known what the impact was going to be on their family, they never would have told. And I said, no, you did the right thing, because when you came forward and you finally found that trusted adult, then there could be an end put to the abuse. But of course, it gets frustrating when they have to go to more than one person to find that secure, trusted individual, that'll listen.
Well, that will listen, take the time to hear. I think some people listen, but they don't hear what you're saying. I mean,
Okay.
I think there's a difference. I mean, I truly, there is a people, and you talk and tell them this, you can tell them the same statistics. You can give them information, and they're like, it's not going in. And,
Okay.
and that's, children deserve better of us.
They do. So tell me more about your book.
Okay.
And now, is this available on Amazon?
Yes, it is available on Amazon. Thank you very much.
Everyone, I'm going to put a link to the book down below, since it's available on Amazon. That way people can find it easier.
Thank you, Gail.
Click the link.
And I tried to get, it's children of every, it doesn't matter how much money you make, where you fall in economic situation, what color your skin is. This is a sad commentary on all of us children. And I have like, who do you trust, or what do you trust? And list of types of media which has touched your life today. Kids they have media coming out of their ears. They do. So it's like, what? And it helps a person like, oh, I didn't know they watched that, a particular channel. Well, and it helps them know what it is their child is viewing.
And that's so important these days.
Well, we can't assume that we know everything our children are doing. I think once you assume, you're going to get in trouble. What does love look like to you? And it's a space for them to draw what love looks like to them. It's not a thick book. It's not a big, heavy book. It's looking at the obstacles, like looking up at a skyscraper as a child, seeing, and then we talk a little bit about obstacles and who provides for us and what do they do? Did they buy us a hamburger and French fries? Or what is this person that came into their life? How did they get in there? What opened that door? Okay. That's a good piece of information to know. Again, it's it's just telling. It talks about boundaries, which is the ice cream cone is the boundary for the ice cream. But
Okay.
can you name another type of boundary? What are your boundaries? And then depending how young the child is, it's something to like have, explore with them.
Okay.
Limits. It explains what's a limit. Because children, we can say, you go ahead and say no. But if they don't understand what a limit is, then they don't understand when to say no. So it addresses that. It has a little girl sleeping in her bed. What's she doing? Is it her nighttime prayers, or what is this little girl thinking or daydreaming about? And then it just goes into permissions and actually learning to say no. And then the responsibility when they say no is to take it to the next step and tell someone that you are safe with. Because telling someone no and then not bringing that home and saying, today I told someone no, that's the child needs to learn to make that connection and advocate for themselves almost.
Right. And they need to know that it really is indeed okay to say no.
Yes.
They have permission, and it's perfectly fine to tell someone no.
But if they do that, they also, try to emphasize that by using that terminology, no, something was violated, something was crossed, something didn't feel right with that child. And that's another way for them to be empowered to come home and say, hey, mom, dad, grandma, I had to use the no word today. Oh, you did? Well, who was that? What happened? See, otherwise the story doesn't get told. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, people try to pry information. They think they already know what the story is. And that's not helping the child. We need to know each individual story of that child.
Yes.
No assumptions.
I love the way you said that, because there's so often that parents get busy or they're just not interested in every story. So if I'm understanding correctly what you say, one of the things that parents should take away from this is to be interested in their child, first and foremost.
I think that any parent would want to, if their child came up to them and said, I had to use the no word today. Why? And not assume that you know what that answer is going to be. Say, oh, really? Why? What happened? And encourage the story to be told without fright, without, they can't be frightened into telling truth, or they shouldn't be scolded into telling the truth. It'll set that child back further than if they turn them away. And I've been there. I know how I felt. And the book was written by someone who wants to have just the tiniest door being opened for the dialogue to begin, so we can stop saying it's an uncomfortable situation. Yes, it is. It's an uncomfortable topic to discuss. Yes, you're absolutely right. But what's the alternative? To stay silent and let children suffer? No, I don't accept that. No, I won't accept that.
That's because it's not acceptable.
Thank you.
Now, the book that you have, it's got places for kids to draw.
Yep.
It's got like a fill in the blank.
Yep.
Is this available in paperback, or is it only available as an ebook?
It's I'm sorry. It's an ebook. It also is in paperback. It's almost like a coloring book, sort of.
It looked like it.
It's like a coloring book, because I don't want it to be institutionalized or sanitary. I want it to be felt like, oh, this is like a coloring book. This is something Yeah. And I wanted to be in them to, this is not an easy journey they're about to take. Neither the parent, the guardian, the police officer, the social worker, the aunt, 2 times, distant aunt, whoever is the safe person for this child. But for both of them, take the journey one step at a time, one bite at a time. Doesn't have to be done. You don't have to do the book all in one bite. Take it a little bit at a time, get to know the whole story. But then once the child's story's here, now you have something to go to the police or go to a therapist and say, here, this is what my child has shared with me. What do you think? And put it in the hands of professionals who then can take it from there and serve that child. And don't be afraid to use resources, please. And it can be a pastor. It can be a rabbi. It can be someone who you trust with that child's story. And it is the child's story. It can't be your story. It can't.
And pastors are mandatory reporters in just about every state that I know of.
Yes.
But any adult, like the law in Tennessee is written so that any adult who suspects child abuse has to report the potential abuse. And I think that's a good way for people to look at it, because if a child comes to you and they make an allegation of child abuse, that child has already been processing it and dealing with it before they ever came to a safe person.
Yeah, you're always in the back seat of this. You're never going to be driving the car. The child is driving the car. And so it should be that they tell their story in its entirety without implications, again, without fear. Just that you've created an environment where, and then when you have these, like I saw a child being slapped upside the head at Walmart. Well, I wanted to slap the parent upside the head. I'm sorry, but it's like, I know what that feels like. So I just took a deep breath. And then I said to the person, I said, when I was a little girl, my daddy would slap me upside the head. It didn't feel good. And I still remember that to this day. And I'm old enough now to be that child's grandparent. Wow. See, and that was that did much more for me and that young man than it would have if I would have smacked him upside the head. But my first, I'm not going to lie to you, my first inclination was, oh, geez, what did that child do to deserve that? But once I said to him, he just said, wow, oh, wow. I never really thought about it, so, and he says, thanks. So I'm like, wow, I got a thanks at your local Walmart. But my girlfriend says, that could have turned into a different situation quickly, and it could have. But if I share my own truth and I don't implicate him in saying, and I did not say what he did upset me or how it made me feel, I just shared my truth, what happened to me and how it made me feel. I believe that in this day and age of political correctness and all this other thing, I think we're still allowed to share our truth. And I love everyone. I don't understand a world where we have to have diversity and division. I see everyone as capable of loving, and I'm capable, and I do love them. And when you take that aspect with life and you really love some people, genuinely love them, it gives you a whole different look on life. When you go around saying, oh, well, now look at that person, what they wore today. Look at this, look at that. See, when you clean all of that out, that garbage away, and you say, there's a person who I bet has a lot of fun, with life. They're smiling, they're joyful. that person looks like they're having a rough day. Maybe if I say hi, maybe it won't make their day, but maybe it will. And we only have a short time to be on this earth to make any kind of a difference. Please, let's make a difference with each other that's positive. Please.
Absolutely. A little positivity would be very helpful in this world. And I think that's one thing though that your book offers. It's on a hard topic, but it gives people the opportunity to talk about the hard topic and to start processing. So how do you envision or suggest that the book be used? Like, who should use it, and say more about that.
I think it should be in the hands of professionals, medical, even taught at nursing schools, perhaps introduced to it at police academies. It also should be any parent, any grandparent that has children living in this day and age, in this crazy world, where the children are not safe. I hope that the book never has to be used, but unfortunately, it does. I want safe people to have it. I want people who have a genuine interest in reaching out, have enough love for a child to listen. Again, just listen to their story. You don't need to add or subtract from it. Just listen to their story. Let them have the opportunity to drive the car. And it could be an aunt. It can be anyone who's safe. Like I said, a pastor. It could be in a resource in churches. It could be a resource at the doctor's office. Somebody goes in for, a headache, and they see this sitting on the desk and think, because it's good reading, just so that people understand that child abuse is violence on a child.
And it doesn't have to be physical violence. Child emotional violence, neglect, battering, emotional battering. Those are all abusive behaviors. We don't want to get too caught up, people who are listening, in thinking that child abuse is only physical. There are many different ways. And I'm not going to go into all of those because I don't want to trigger, but I will say that emotional abuse and neglect are valid forms of child abuse. And if you want any information on that, please go check out like the National Children's Alliance, because they have a lot of information. I'm not affiliated with them, but I would encourage you to look. I would also encourage you to check out the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, because they're also a resource as well, and your local community.
And our local community, we're blessed to have Advocates United for Humanity, which is an informational and helpful organization. They do everything from bullying campaigns to, if a person is homeless, how do I get into how do I file paperwork to get into a home? Child abuse. There are agencies out there willing to help. And there are people who make it their life's work to help children. Don't be afraid to utilize any level of that help, because you might be surprised that where that will come from. Many people say to me, well, you're such a jolly person. I can't believe that you were ever in a dark place. Oh, honey, like I said, it's a lot of prayer. It's constant prayer. And I've had good people along the way, wonderful people along the way to help me in my journey.
And the people who have helped to get you out of that dark place.
Yes.
One thing that I'm hearing from you is that if you're in a dark place, you don't have to stay there.
No. And it's hard because and we do get, once we get in a dark place and we become depressed and we think, oh, woe is me. And it's easy to self-pity ourselves into a deeper depression, a deeper dark place. And the last thing we want to hear about is, oh, the sun is beautiful today. It's nice and warm. Look how it settles against the snow on the trees. It's like, well, I can't see life like that. How dare you? So, but don't let yourself go to those dark depths. I'm here to tell you, I was there. I took a chance, just a chance. I took some prayer, just a little bit of prayer. I probably still don't pray right way, but I don't think that God minds. He hears my prayer no matter how mixed up or tear-filled or groveling it may appear to someone else. God
There is no right or wrong way to pray.
to pray. And I think, yes, and that got me through a lot of sad days.
But I think that when you're in the middle of the abuse, and then as a child, it's kind of normal, I would think, to have some of those feelings. And then as you progress and become an adult, it may not be until then that you can really start to process everything that happened. Even though you may have therapists and you may have guidance counselors at school and people trying to help you, there's always a different level as you get older, you know.
It is. And that's why the book is for any age. It's directed to stop child abuse. But there's still that child inside each of us that needs healing from time to time, that needs to be refreshed from time to time, that you need to self-love sometimes. And don't be afraid to pull that little, girl or little boy out, shake them off, look at them, and love them. Love them.
Awesome. Because eventually, with prayer and work and healing, that sun's going to come out again.
Yes.
You're going to see the sunshine on the snow, through the trees.
Yes,
and life can be good. And you're here as proof that life can be good.
I am proof. I am proof. But I didn't make it this journey myself. You take chances. And I'd say go ahead and take that chance to step out into that uncomfortable space of chaos that poor child's living, and just allow them a door to open to start the dialogue. Just let them start their dialogue. And if you're honored enough to have earned that child's love and respect, please don't abuse that.
Right.
Please don't. That's more of a disservice than not listening in the first place.
And do act on it. Don't keep it to yourself. Do what you have to get help for the child.
That's right. And don't let anybody stop you. If you meet someone along the way that puts an obstacle up and you're like, well, this is worthwhile, just bypass the obstacles, keep going. There are people out there, but sometimes you're hitting somebody on a bad day and they might put an obstacle up in front of you, and don't just keep going. Keep going keep moving for the sake of that child. Keep moving and just get them to a safe place in their heart and in their life.
Now, I know that writing a book like this can be difficult. It can also be cathartic. So tell me about your experience as you were writing the book.
It was cathartic, but I was writing it. When I was writing, it was like, I'm tired. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Somebody said to me, I just don't know how to begin a conversation with someone if they were going through that. And I'm like, I don't know either. None of us have a set game plan here. Just start the dialogue, start the conversation. And that's, well, I was typing 1,000 words a minute. And then I sat down and I'm thinking, well, this is what is most beneficial for the child. And I let the child within me guide the words onto the pages. Okay. So it was cathartic, absolutely. And there was many tears I shed writing this book. I still have dark times and I still shed a lot of tears because I don't like to see anybody in pain. I can wear someone's pain. I can just walk past them and I just will feel their pain.
Right.
And then I go home and I pray for them. I jot their name down because there's nothing I know that I can maybe do except say, hello, you look beautiful today in that blouse or whatever it might be. Notice them and then take it home to the Lord in prayer.
That's beautiful. Now, how did your family and friends respond when they found out that you were writing this? Were they supportive or standoffish? How did that go?
I was told in no uncertain terms that don't bring disgrace or to our family. I said our family's dysfunctional, so is every family in America.
A lot of families are.
I said I don't know who these non-dysfunctional families where they live, but I've not met any. As I've come to know people and engage in their lives, we're all have something that we're dealing with. And it could be money, it could be health, it could be job, not being promoted, losing a job. I mean, people are everywhere, especially in this COVID world. They had a job. Next time they don't have a job. They work from home. They used to have an office with a door on it and people could stay out. Now they have to Zoom to a meeting. Look, education of children, that scares me the most. In the current situation that we don't have kids in Pennsylvania, they're not in school right now. Everybody's being homeschooled and it's been going on for months. That there's not someone who could be regulating their food, making sure that they're getting a hot meal each day, just the basics, because we can't pretend that these things are just, we
can't shrug it off.
You can't. You can't assume that everybody's getting 3 square meals a day. You can't assume that there isn't somebody's mental health, a parent, their mental health is affecting the way they're treating their children now. Good, bad, ugly. It's happening. And it's not that they want it to. In a lot of cases, they were just thrown into this craziness as well. But somebody needs to say, hey, look, you're not in such a good place. I think it's affecting the family. What can we do to help? Offer to help. I mean, please just offer to help, to be a part of the solution. If it's $10 in gas money, or maybe it's making an appointment taking them to their first appointment, to a doctor, maybe they need medication. Make sure that the medication is something they can afford. Don't assume that they take the medication. Say, hey, how you doing? And right. Once a day, medication. These are all things that we all have the power to do. And for some reason, we just have become well, that's really none of my business. Well, children being abused is our business. And if you can help do something I don't see why not offer help to somebody. I can't save everybody, but I can darn tootin' save one person at a time, maybe make them smile, take them from a great place to a little bit off white.
Well, we all have our own little corner of the world. And if we can make our own little corner of the world better, then that's going to encourage the next person to make their little corner of the world better. And it will keep spreading.
Yes, like my chicken soup. I make chicken soup. I make a great chicken soup. When I make it, I make a great big pot of it, sometimes two pots of it, and then I spread it throughout my neighborhood. They know, they see me coming. They're like, "Oh, Maureen made soup again."
But you never know who that's going to inspire.
But they enjoy it,
Yeah.
and I enjoy it. It's something that I can do, and I enjoy doing it. And if somebody's sick, I enjoy, if I find out that they're sick, I take something to their house. I make a little pack, a little get well kit and drop it off. You don't have to announce it on Facebook. You don't have
I
to.
agree.
You can do these are things you can do. Look around. I'm sure you have an extra hand creamer or something. You don't have to go out and buy something to give. This is stuff that you have around the house that you have extra. Share with another person.
Spread some sunshine.
Yes. So,
And too, that will help, can help cut some of the stress that families are in, and that can actually lower the possibility of child abuse, because the
yes.
families who are more likely to have children who are abused are families that are under a lot of stress. Now, this doesn't mean financial stress, because you can live in a multi-million dollar mansion and still have abuse going on in the family. But anything that we can do to reach out to each other helps with that stress,
Yes.
especially now.
And smile. Don't be afraid to not smile. I don't, this, I can't help but smile. It just comes out, and I'm not going to apologize for it. It's who I am. If I'm no different with you right here now than I am if you came in and known me the last 63 years of my life. What you see is what you get.
Gotcha.
Good,
We have
bad,
to be
or
real. We have to be real.
yeah.
So, Maureen, what else would you like people to know about your book or about you?
I would like people to know that even though you come from wherever bad places you come from or have come through situations that were terrible, that you can find love again, that you can dedicate yourself, that you can be a good human being, that you can truly love in the agape love, to really just wear God's love on you, let people see God's love through you. It's not hard at all. Oh, we always hear about wearing the armor of God. Well, I think the best armor God really wants us to wear in that closet is pull out love. If you wear love and you share love, I don't think you're going to miss anything. I'm not afraid of arrows, flying arrows, because I think if you have created it around you, that kind of comfort and caring, where are the arrows coming from? We put the arrows down, don't we? Because now there's no need to fight. We don't have to argue. Just, I would say that took me a long time to really learn and feel, and don't rush yourself. Like I said, I'm 63. I said that 3 times now. I guess I'm proud of the fact that I made it to 63, and
Yes.
and and I think some people think, oh my gosh, I'm 30, my life is half over. You know what? I'm 60 and my life isn't half over yet. That's what I want people to know. And so just go out, enjoy. And if you can make a difference in someone's life in a positive, loving, caring, compassionate way, please go ahead and do it. Don't just let it happen. Just love your next door neighbor. Start there.
Definitely words to live by there. Well, Maureen, thank you for taking the time out to be here and to tell us about your book and about your life. And that is to remind everybody that's Frozen Tears. It's available on Amazon. I will link that down below. Now, that's going to be an affiliate link because I'll get a tiny commission from any purchases made through that link. And that helps me create content.
Mhm.
So, Maureen, thank you for watching and being on here. And everyone, I hope you have a blessed week. We've got this program on Tuesdays, and then on Sunday nights, we do a Bible discussion at 9 p.m. Eastern. So this airs at 12 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, and then the Bible discussion, like I said, is 9 p.m. Eastern. So thank you all for watching, and I hope that you can overcome the obstacles in your life.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye, everybody.